we spent a lot of time, myself, Christine Orlando, Jonathan Adams, who was here before me, and obviously Dr. Carenti, going over the curriculum and trying to find out the best way to roll this out K through really 12. But how can we really put that emphasis on the K through 5 aspect for these kids? And it's been so rewarding. It really has been. Just a variety of different things that we've talked about, which we'll dive into later. But I just kind of wanted to give you an understanding of that because I find it so valuable what we're doing. And just to know that the kids find it valuable is really something awesome to see. So that's a little background on myself, but I am not the only person here today. I'm also not the only one responsible to do all this stuff. Over here to my left, we have Christine Orlando. She is also one of the health teachers here at Saks and does elementary over at South. She has been here for
27 years.
27 years. I wanted to make sure I got that right and not say that wrong. So,
She started when she was 1.
Christine.
I actually have grandstudents now. I do have some kids who I've taught their parents, which is very surreal.
Yeah, so Christine's been here a very long time and she's been great to work with. I had obviously 6 years, got to work with her. Nick Hawtaw as well. He stepped in when I left to go over to the high school. He also coaches the crossover at the high school and is at East as well. And then our deputy superintendent, Dr. Jill Carenti, is here today. She's been a major advocate for us, a major supporter, and we're very lucky to have her as well. And then you can see on this photo over to the far right is Tim Stella, who unfortunately can't be here today, but he is over at West, and he does PE and health over there. So for any of you that have West, I'm sure they know Mr. Stella pretty well. So that's kind of who we are, and without any further ado, so the objective and kind of overview today is we're going to go over our vision for health education in New Canaan Public Schools, how we implement it, some of the topics that we discuss. We will have a Q&A at the very end if you have questions, and also at the end, if you want to come up and take a look at some of the K through 5 workbooks and some of the activities that some of the students do, you can feel free to do that as well, just so you kind of have an idea. And I want you to kind of look at that second bullet point up here around skills-based health education. You can see our motto in the bottom right-hand corner is skills build health. This is really our approach and how we look at everything. It's not just here is the content, here's a book, take a test, move on. I'm going to dive deeper into what that looks like, but I just kind of wanted to point that out because that really is important in how we go about teaching. Before we dive into all that, I do want you to kind of reflect on your experience, if you can think back to it, in middle school health. I don't know if anyone did it. This has kind of come to my head since Miss Orlando's been here 27 years. Did anyone have Miss Orlando for middle school health? Someone's like, I might have. So be ready for this response just in case. I just want you to reflect on it and think about what was your experience like, kind of what do you remember, kind of what grade would you give yourself, and take a moment to think about it because I can tell you firsthand, I vividly remember my middle school health because my father was our health teacher at Rippewan Middle School in Stanford. And I'll never forget going home and seeing the Scantron sheets that he's about to grade and go over and see who my best friend, how did he do on the test? Was he paying attention to the video? And all these different things. But when I think back to it, and I had this discussion with my father the other day, it was very much based just around core concepts and kind of understanding whether or not kids are picking up the information. It was, here's a book, here's the information, and now let's see if you know what you're doing with it. It is very different from how we approach things. We approach it through a skills-based lens where we're trying to teach kids different skills through concepts. So it is a much different approach and something that we found to be very successful, and I see it at the high school. Our high school students have been doing a really, really good job throughout the health education program, so it has been successful. So here's a little bit about our vision. So I'm going to read this to you kind of word for word. But students of New Canaan Public Schools will be equipped with the skills necessary to improve their health literacy, which we'll dive into that definition, fostering the capability to make informed decisions in order to lead a healthy lifestyle. So basically, the breakdown of it is this. There are 8 national health standards that we teach to. The first standard is around core concepts, okay? Now, with that, you have the topics. So when you think about a comprehensive health education program, it promotes things like that: personal wellness, personal safety, alcohol, tobacco, and other drug-free lifestyle, healthy eating, so on and so forth. So these are the things that we want students to know, to understand, and kind of the lens of it. What we really try to do is use the rest of these standards, and this is what we want our students to be able to do. So when you look at analyzing influences, how do you actually do that? Okay, when you think about advocacy, how do you have the confidence to advocate for yourself, to advocate for a healthy lifestyle? All of these things are how we try to go about our health education vision. Okay, and by doing all that, we are hoping to promote and build on health literacy. So when we take all of these things into consideration and we try to build it, we're looking to hopefully produce and prepare students as critical thinkers, problem solvers, responsible and productive citizens, self-directed learners, and effective communicators. When you look K through 5, throughout each of the grade levels, we focus on a different standard and different skills, and then we try to build on them as they go. And we'll get into a deeper dive of that grade by grade here in a minute, but that's kind of the overall vision of what we're looking for. And we saw the definition of, or the term, health literacy. Okay, health literacy is the ability to access, understand, appraise, apply, and advocate for health information and services in order to maintain or enhance one's own health and the health of others. There was a stat that was out from the Association of Adult Literacy, where it said only 12% of adults in this country feel they have a sufficient health literacy, which is crazy to think about. So what we did when we kind of started to build this whole entire program was look at those numbers and say, how can we make sure our students don't fall into that number and that they become more health literate? So when you think of what are health literate people, what are they able to do? They are able to address their own health needs and the health of others, obtain and apply knowledge and skills to enhance their own health and the health of others as well. So it's not only advocating for themselves and trying to build a healthy lifestyle for themselves, but how can they do it for others as well? So when we tie into different things with like friendships, how can I help a friend who might be in need of something? How do I pick out that? How do I know where to go for those certain things? And if you want to look at it in terms of like an equation, it kind of looks like this, okay? You have the attitudes, so why you're doing something. You have the knowledge, kind of those core concepts, that's the what. And that middle part is kind of where we build our whole foundation around. It's the skills. How do you actually do it, right? So when you think of something like being an effective communicator, it's great that kids understand. You want to be able to communicate and, be able to advocate for yourself, right? But how do you actually do that? How do you have the skills to do that? And if you're able to put all those things together, that is where that health literacy builds, and that's kind of what we're looking to do. So this is overall the little scope of what we look for in our K through 5 health education program. And what we're going to do now is really dive into the implementation of all of this. Throughout our skill development, there's some steps that we take, okay? The first one is to introduce whatever the skill is that we want our students to know, okay, and understand the relevance behind it. So why are we actually doing this? What's it about? The second part is presenting the steps of this skill. The third is modeling it for students. Okay, I was very much a visual learner as a student. I needed to see things. I wasn't someone that could just open a book up and read it and then make sure I know what I'm doing. I kind of needed a model for me. So we do that. And then we allow the students to practice it. And from that, when we're watching them practice whatever that skill may be, we provide them with the feedback and reinforcement. So I told you that I coach baseball and basketball. If I put it into a sports analogy, if I'm going to teach my kids a new skill, whether it's a different kind of move or whatever it may be, I'm not just going to roll the ball out and say, show me how to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to talk about why we're doing the skill, right? Why it's important to actually do it, okay? Show them how to do it, demonstrate it for them, let them practice it, and then give them feedback as they're doing it as to whether or not it's being done efficiently. So that's kind of how we look at how we teach. So if you look at something like the Great Decision-Making Model, this is one of the things we talk about in third grade. So if any of you have third graders, they'll be going through this. We talk about why it's important to make great decisions, what it is. We go through the model with them, and all of these models that you see right here are actually in the elementary school classrooms. I know at East, Mr. Sangali, who's a PE teacher over there, actually has this up on the wall as well. But we break down the model for them. Then what we do from there is we go over different scenarios, and we talk about how could we break down this model to make a great decision. So that's kind of how we go through our skill development, because that really is crucial, especially at a younger age, for kids to be able to understand. They want to know why, they want to know how to do it, and then they want to be able to practice it and get that feedback so that they know it's done the right way. So when we look at our implementation, okay, in K through 5, okay, well, more K4, they get 10 health lessons throughout the entire year, okay? It's broken down through the teachers as Mr. Orlando, Mr. Haltaw, and Mr. Stella. It's done in the homerooms of those classes. So whether you have a student at South, East, or West, Mr. Orlando, Mr. Haltaw, or Mr. Stella will go to those classrooms. The homeroom teachers also have the lessons available to them. And one of the things that I always found was really awesome was that the teachers have really bought in to the health program as well, and they've been very much active in our lessons, helping out, going over certain things. And that's been really, really valuable because especially at the elementary school, the homeroom teacher is really key for a lot of these students because it's the person that they see so many times throughout the day, throughout the year. So they're very comfortable in there. So to see their teachers being very engaged in our lessons has been very helpful. And then the reason why we've done it is kind of identified as the biggest gap for our K-12 curriculum, which was obviously that younger age. And we're always trying to continue to work with colleagues to find that blended experience. And again, just to go back to the very beginning of this, I really have seen the power of how effective this has been, just seeing all these kids come through the public school system and seeing it with health education. The graduating seniors this year, when they stepped foot into this building as fifth graders, it was my first time ever stepping foot into here as well. So it's been really cool to watch them progress and go through it. But this is kind of the breakdown of K through 4 and kind of the what, how, and why. So we'll start with kindergarten, okay? We focus around self-management in kindergarten. So when you look at that, it's that students will demonstrate the ability to practice health-enhancing behaviors and avoid or reduce health risks. So where focus is around personal wellness and safety, and these 3 essential questions right here are kind of the focus around what we look to do, okay? So how will I manage my own wellness triangle? Why is it important to practice healthy behaviors? When should I seek trusted adults? Things of that nature. And these images up here are really where our kind of starting point is. The wellness triangle, which you can see right over here, is something that we kind of build our foundation off of. We have our physical health, we have our social health, and we have our mental emotional health. And what we try to teach our students is that this is a very strong shape. And in order to have optimal wellness, which is right there in the middle, we want to make sure that all 3 sides are as strong as possible, right? So we'll give examples of like, if I'm not sleeping, okay, and if I don't sleep, I might not feel very well. And if I'm not feeling very well, then I might not want to talk with my friends all that often. And if I'm not talking with my friends very often, then I might not be around my group of friends that, I usually am with, and there's a variety of different things that come with it. So we talk about, we really want to build off of this wellness triangle. And it's really awesome, especially at kindergarten when we start this, because again, a lot of kids are very visual learners. So we'll talk to them, we'll say, what do you think physical health is? And they'll start screaming out things like eating and sleeping. And we're like, yes, and what does that really do? That's for and they say our bodies. So what we like to do at the elementary schools is we act it out for them. So we say, show me what your physical health looks like. That's for our bodies, and we'll tell them to flex. So you'll see all the kindergartners will start flexing for you. What is your physical health? Very good. And then we say, what about social? That's the one that kind of gets a little confusing for them. They're like, I'm not really sure. So we go like this with our hands to them. And we say our social health is really how we communicate, right? That's kind of the very beginning of social health. So how we talk. So we say, show me social health. And they'll start doing this. And we'll say mental health is based around how we think. And then our emotional health, we make a little heart, and that's how we feel. And then we ask our kids to kind of give it back to us. So we'll say, kind of go rapid fire. We'll be like, show me physical health. flex. Social, they'll do this, and we'll say mental, emotional, physical, and then we go rapid fire. And then it turns into a game for them, which is awesome. But it's something that when you refer back to, it kind of clicks for them. Because when we have them in second grade, first grade, third, all those things, we'll start with, okay, we're going to start with the triangle. Someone show me what physical health is, and the kids will flex. And I did that this year. I kid you not. I did that with my freshmen. We do the wellness triangle. It's always kind of the first thing as a refresher. And I say, let me see someone show me what physical health is. And one of my boys stood up and he started flexing. And I was like, there you go. And it's just those kind of visuals for them that it clicks to them what we're looking to do. If you want to look at another visual, it's kind of like a stool where you have the 3 different legs. And if one leg were to get kicked off, obviously what happened to that stool, it would fall down. So we're trying to have our kindergartners understand we want to be healthy in all these areas, and then we talk about some of the minor things you can do with eating healthy, brushing your teeth, sleeping, talking with friends, things of that nature. In first grade, we kind of expand upon this with self-management. It's really good to reflect with them because, again, sometimes in kindergarten, some things are forgotten, and when they get to first grade, you kind of just want to make sure that it's a review for them. But you can see the essential questions kind of change a little bit here. So we talk about what does it mean to be multidimensional, okay? What is wellness in general? How can I learn to develop healthy habits? And how can I take care of myself so I can be my best self? That's a term, obviously, a lot of the kids learn about through some of our EI approaches with being their best self, but first grade builds upon more of that. And it's something that's been pretty effective too. And again, when this is all done, if you want to take a look at some of the stuff that we do at first grade, you can feel free to do that. In grade 2, we go to interpersonal communication. Okay, and this is actually right down here is exactly what we were talking about with demonstrating physical, social, mental, emotional health. With interpersonal communication, students will demonstrate the ability to use interpersonal communication skills to enhance health or avoid or reduce health risks. So the essential questions up there: how does my heart and mind impact my health? How can I be an effective communicator? This is a really big one. This is kind of the main focus. How does communication impact myself and others? And when is it time to seek out a trusted adult? Now, you're going to see the terms with trusted adults, and we'll dive deeper into that when we get to the mandate, but that is touched upon as well. But when you look at the interpersonal communication with second grade, and you can see a visual up here, and Miss Orlando was actually just talking about a second grade class she had yesterday. It's really cool to try to teach them how communication is so important, but it's a variety of different things. It's not always just verbal, and kind of basing off of things like tone of voice. So for instance, we give them, we talk about how someone's tone can dictate how they're feeling and how you might know if a friend isn't feeling well based off of their tone of voice. So we'll give them a card, and if their card is red, on the back of it, whatever they're saying is they want to use a red emotion, which might be something like angry or really high emotion. They might get a card that's green, which is more of like a happier emotion. And then we also might use a card that's yellow, that's kind of like right in the middle. And we'll do things like, one of the sayings is, it's snowing, right? So we'll say to them, you have the red card of it's snowing. So if you were not happy that it was snowing outside, how would that sound? And they would stand up and they'd probably go, it's snowing. We're like, there you go. And then how do you tell, we asked the rest of the class, that they're not happy it's snowing? Well, their facial expression, the tone dropped, all those things. And we'll say, okay, now you have the green one. How would you say it's snowing? And they scream and shout, it's snowing. And we're like, great, how do you know that they're excited that it's snowing? Well, their nonverbals, their hands going up, their tone being very high. So these are all things that we go over in second grade with communication. And those lessons are very active. They're very fun for the kids. And it's a great way to kind of keep them engaged while still learning the skill of interpersonal communication. Grade 3 is where we focus on decision making. Okay, and this is where the great decision making model that you saw earlier comes into play. But students will demonstrate the ability to use decision making skills to enhance health. And we go through a variety of different scenarios in third grade with students, and then we break down the model with them as well. So we talk about how can we keep ourselves safe, how can we keep our family and friends safe in the community. So for instance, this little visual over here on the far right-hand side, we give them 6 different visuals, and we have them try to identify where would you see these things. So obviously something like a fire alarm, we would say, where would you see that? And they would circle, most of them circle school, because they see them in school, and most of them will circle community as well, because they'll see those in community buildings like the Y, etc. Some kids might circle home because of the smoke detector, which is great. So we talk about what is that safety feature? How do you know what it is and what's it there for? Okay, and the importance behind it, and how do we know it keeps us safe? And then you'll see other things like lifeguard, resource officer, crossing guard, etc. We also dive into this book right here, The Summer My Father Was 10. We only read, 3 pages, 4 pages? The first 3 or 4 pages of the book. And basically, the opening of this book starts with a young man who's playing baseball with his friends out back in a yard. And one of his buddies hits a ball into the garden next door. And the garden next door is an old man, one of his neighbors, that has built this garden and has taken the time to really make sure everything is great. And then they go get the ball, and when they're there, the ball is sitting in the middle of a tomato garden, okay? And we stop it right there. And we say, okay, so now you have a young man who's going to get a baseball. He's there with a friend. There's a bunch of tomatoes around. What do you think can happen? Like, what are some of the decisions you could make here? And some of the kids are like, oh, yeah, you just get the ball and keep playing. It's like, great. That's what we would hope you would do. We flip to the last page that we read, and in the book, the young man takes the tomato, throws it at his friend takes another one, throws it back, and then all of a sudden the whole entire garden is destroyed. And we stop it right there, and we talk about why was that not a great decision? And we look at the model, and we talk about what could have been done differently. So if you just very briefly look at that model, the G is to give thought to the decision. So what am I actually faced with? The R is to review your options. So what can I actually do in this situation? The E is to evaluate which one's the best. The A is to assess and actually pick the best option. And then the T is to think it over afterwards. So we tell our students, like, we understand when you're faced with a situation, you're not going to have the great decision-making model written on your hand and be able to write out all your options. But we want you to think about, in that situation, what is a great decision to make, not only for yourself, but for other people? And we go back to that scenario, and we say, why was that not a great decision? Because who did that impact? Not only did it impact your friend because you hit them with a tomato and they threw one back at you, but it also impacted the old man who planted the garden, who took so much time to do all of this, and now his garden's destroyed. So we really break it down, and I think this is a great book for it because it really does dive into decision making, and it's a good visual for our students. So that's kind of around 3rd grade. 4th grade, we go into analyzing influences. Students will analyze the influence of family, peer, culture, media, technology, and other factors on health behaviors. And we focus around personal wellness and drug awareness and prevention. So we really dive into the influences, and we teach our students about external and internal. We teach them that external are the factors that are around us. Internal are all the things that are kind of inside of us. So one of the really cool lessons that we do, you can see here on the bottom left, and you can see Ms. Orlando actually right here doing it as well, is we do a gingerbread cookie. Which fits nicely because this goes right around towards that Christmas time when we get to that lesson. But we basically have students get into groups, and we tell them on sticky notes to write all of the different influences in their lives. So it could be friends, it could be coaches, it could be parents, teachers, all these different things. And we have them come up with as many as they can think of. And then we tell them with the sticky notes to post them either on the inside of the gingerbread cookie, which would identify the internal influences, or on the outside, and those are all the external influences. And then we have them talk amongst themselves, see if they agree with it. Then we have them share it out with the class and see if the class agrees or not. So it's a really cool visual, yet again, where kids are understanding the skill of analyzing influences and being able to talk about them. We will also dive into, we do this little scale activity where we'll give them a scenario and we have marbles. And we'll hand marbles out to students, and we'll say, okay, here's your situation, and then you are going to, with this, be a bad influence in one way or another. So let's say it was for Halloween, and you got candy, and you just got your whole entire bag of candy, and you just devoured the whole entire thing. How do you think you're going to feel afterwards? Is that, you're probably not going to feel very good, right? If you eat that much candy, you're probably going to feel sick. So what kind of influence was that? Did somebody tell you to go eat all of those things? And they're like, no, I decided to do it. So what kind of influence is that? And they're like, oh, that's an internal. So we'll give them marbles, they'll bring it over to the scale, and they'll drop it on the negative side, and they'll see the scale start to drop. and then we'll give them a positive influence, and they'll go on the other side, and they'll start to balance out. So again, it's another nice visual for them to kind of understand and learn, so they can see the difference between positive, negatives, internal, external, and that's really what we focus on with grade 4. So I'm going to dive into the state mandate. Okay, so this is around sexual assault and abuse prevention and awareness for grades K through 5. So in terms of the foundation of these lessons, okay, we believe that most successful prevention programs encourage effective communication and decision-making skills, so you can see the progression and through lines of that in different grade levels. Empathy, building an understanding of respectful and healthy relationships, which we'll dive into. And from what we've learned, it's recommended to begin talking at an early age in order to build the foundation. Now, I really want you to take a look at, when we go through this, how we do these lessons and what exactly is taught and how we go about this, okay? So here is a breakdown, K through 5, of what is taught, the essential questions, and then kind of the skill that we're trying to focus on. Okay, so in kindergarten, what we get to is who are the people that care about you and that want to keep you safe. That is what we talk about, okay? Who are the people in your life that you would go to keep you safe? Who are those people? And we have them write them down, draw them, do those things. That is the level that we would get to for kindergarten, okay? Grade 1, what are some ways people show they are happy? What might people show with their emotion based on how they're feeling? And again, we kind of touched upon that with self-management. In 2nd grade, what makes an environment, family relationship healthy? How can I communicate effectively to build and maintain healthy relationships? So we talk about, that empathy piece, how to be respectful, how to be nice to other people, okay? 3rd grade, how many relationships do people have in their lives? And again, there's some visuals that we have up here for you. If you take a look at grade 1 and 2, some of you, if you've had students that have come through already, you probably have seen this. This is our trusted tree, okay? So when we talk about trusted adults and we talk about how they identify who it is, this is it. We ask them, who in your life at school would be one of your trusted adults? And sometimes they'll say their homeroom teacher. I've seen people say, when I was teaching, sometimes the SRO officer. I've seen the principal, all these different people, right? So we tell them to write it and draw it, just so they can have a visual and understanding. What about at home? Most people will draw their parents, whoever else. Community, a lot of times you'll see things like police officers, firefighters, things of that nature. Sometimes kids will do like coaches or things of that nature, but that's kind of a visual for them to understand what it is, okay? In 3rd grade, we have another visual, and again, these are gonna pop up here on the screen in a minute, but another visual where kids are gonna be able to identify who their trusted adults are and why. So you can see some of those right there, and obviously we talk about decision-making because that is our focus in grade 3, and how can the decisions I make impact my health and safety. Grade 4, how do healthy and unhealthy relationships affect our lives? How can my attitudes, behaviors, and decisions be influenced? Why and when is it important to talk about a trusted adult about your feelings? So going into why you're feeling a certain way and why it's okay to go reach out and talk to people, and the importance behind that. And then in grade 5, what makes a healthy relationship versus unhealthy? And then how can I communicate effectively when experiencing an unhealthy relationship? So when you look at this, we're really trying to just progress it as we go. And really put an emphasis around really speaking up and being able to understand who are the people in our lives that we can go to be safe and to talk to if we need them. So here's a couple of examples for you. So here's some of the visuals. I'll leave them up here for a second. This one is the one I just showed you up here, the trusted tree. My trusted circle right here, this is in 5th grade. So you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but in the middle they write their name, and then right in this first circle after it, we have them write who are their adults that are most trusted. These are the people I would go to no matter what, no matter something happened. I know they'll be there. I can go to them. That's my most trusted. That next circle says some trust. So we talk about these might be the next people that maybe don't come to mind right away, but you would identify like, okay, yeah, I'm comfortable going to talk to them. And then that 3rd circle is really just people that we know. And it's, some of the 5th graders will be like my bus driver. Like, okay, yeah, you know that that's an adult. You're probably, unless something happens on the bus, you may not go talk to your bus driver. But those are kind of some of the answers that we've seen in there as well. And then, again, kind of the circle of trust up top, who would you tell? We tell them to think of 4 different trusted adults. Some of them come up with 3 or 2, that's fine. That could keep you safe. And again, homeschool and community. And then we leave them an extra circle to just, if they, some kids are like, I have a ton of different trusted adults. We're like, great, write them out. So that's an opportunity for them to do that. So this is how we teach to the mandate. And again, I know I kind of keep going back to this. It really, to me, has been so effective with how we've gone about it because I see it at the high school. I see the power of these kids now understanding the importance of trusted adults. When I hear them yell out trusted adults in a lesson that we're doing, it really stands out. And those are things that it just shows me they're understanding who they are, when to go to them, why it's important, why they're there for us. And that's the power behind all of it because, one of the things I've always said to my students is at no point ever, especially from a health education standpoint, would I ever want you to feel like you're alone in something. There are people there for you. Just identify who they are, and you want to take that, you want to have those skills, that confidence to go talk to them, but you're never alone in what you're feeling. So make sure you understand who these people are and go talk to them. And it's really worked out really, really well. So that's kind of the breakdown of the state mandate, and again, kind of K-4 implementation. Obviously, 5th grade, we also dive into it like you just saw. Just for 5th grade parents, very quickly, students get health here at SACS for a quarter, and they'll have it 2 times during a 6-day rotation, which this year averages out to about 14 total lessons for the year, and it is done during their workshop block. So if you have students here that are in 5th grade, really, and the rest of the grades as well, that is when they will have it, and it's scheduled by their homeroom classes. So that's kind of the breakdown of that. For how many 5th grade parents do I have here, by chance? Okay, awesome. So you can see up here when, I'm not sure whose homerooms are what, but you can see the homeroom teachers are here, the dates that the rotation basically goes through, and then when they would have it. So our teachers teach on B and C and E and F days. A and D days, Mr. Orlando and Mr. Hawtaw are over at the elementary school doing elementary health. But if any of your students are, if you're wondering when they might have health, well, here you go. So I don't know if anyone wanted to take a picture of that or still does, but those are the dates for that. Little overview for 5th grade. It's around self-management, so being able to demonstrate the ability to practice health-enhancing behaviors. And we talk about personal wellness. Again, we dive into the wellness triangle. So we go into some things with managing your health, understanding, importance of getting sleep, hydrating, having a close friend group, having certain things with stress management, which builds towards when they get to 6th and 7th grade. And one of the things that I think is really, really cool about our 5th grade, and this is something that we started when the current senior class was in 5th grade, is this part right here around happiness and health. You can see the image right here. This was my first year here when myself and Miss Orlando taught at the very top floor of the school. And we had what was called the Happiness Is wall. And you can see that wall right there. And basically what we had our 5th graders do is they would come in and we hand them an orange sticky note. And orange is kind of looked at as the color of happiness, so we decided to go with that. And we would tell them, when you come in, go right to your desk and write or draw something that makes you happy, right? And the reason why we wanted to do that is you want them to think about things that make them happy as class starts. It kind of puts them in a really positive mood. And some of the responses that you'd see on this wall were awesome. You talk about kids writing things like the smell of the chocolate chip cookies I bake with my grandmother, running home and seeing my baby brother or baby sister, getting a hug from my parents. And it was like those things, I kind of have like chills talking about it, were just so awesome to see. And we did it with every single class throughout all 4 quarters, and we built up this Happiness Is wall right here. And you could see all the different sticky notes that were up there. This was our quarter 4 group. That was the final group that we did it with. And I mean, I thought that wall just came out so awesome. And we've continued to do that here. The classrooms have moved. So we started up there, and then we made our way down, and then back up, and then sideways, and then COVID happened, and we're on carts, and we're all over the place. But we've continued to build upon this, and it's really something that I think is so cool. And our 5th graders absolutely love it. They love walking by it. The teachers love to see some of the responses. And it really kind of builds that school culture, especially around grade 5, where kids are thinking about things that make them happy. So I absolutely love that picture. We also dive into interpersonal communication. do things like saying no to dares, as you can see in that lesson up there. So communication, why is it important to communicate for yourself? Certain things with risk and reward. Why is it important to let others know what I want and feel? The I dare you scenarios are always cool because the kids get to act them out in front of the class and they break it down. So it's a really fun little lesson there as well, but we'll dive into that also. And one of the other things with 5th grade, so for all you 5th grade parents, you're going to be ready for this, is the puberty class, okay? Human growth and development, but yes, they know it as puberty, and that's the big thing that's just coming right at you over here. And I'll tell you what, for me personally, one of the things I miss more than anything being here is being able to teach 5th grade because I absolutely loved teaching puberty classes. I absolutely loved it. I have a senior basketball player right now who's actually a starting quarterback of our football team. And I asked him the other day, I said, do you remember puberty class when you were in 5th grade? And he was like, I do. And it was just because of the classroom setup. It's just so funny watching these classes happen because the boys walk out of the class and they're like, yeah, all right. And then Mr. Orlando lets the girls out and they're kind of like, okay. So, but it really, in all seriousness, the lessons are really impactful because it's really just back and forth and kind of communication and breaking things down. And it's really putting an emphasis around these are normal developments. Because the one thing that I think a lot of kids in 5th grade start, or anyone that's really going through puberty, is this something that's normal? Like, is this what's happening to my body and my mind, and like my feelings? Is it normal? And we want them to understand that it is, and that's okay. So if you look at some of the essential questions, how am I like and different from anyone else? Why do we change physically and emotionally? When will these changes happen? What's going on inside my body? And who can I safely go to for answers about my questions that I might have? And again, it's really a more of a back and forth lesson. I'm going to show you here the dates that your kids will have these puberty dates. So for any 5th grade parents, if you just want to prep yourself for this, these are the dates that are up here, okay? The boys will be going with Mr. Hawtaw and the girls will be with Mr. Orlando, but these are the dates. I know they're kind of spread out all over the place, but again, based off of how the schedule is built out, that's kind of how we have to do it. But these are the dates for them in case, I know there's a lot of parents that want to either maybe prep their kid or want to be able to talk with them about it afterwards, which is great. We promote that and we hope you do. But again, we're trying to really build a relationship with parents as well. And that's kind of why we do this whole entire presentation. It's to understand what we do, why we do it, and we hope to have your support with it as well because you really are the most important people in the lives of the students. And if you can see what we're doing, understand what we're doing, and the kids are hearing that same kind of language and understanding, it kind of just builds everything easier for them and, really makes their time in health a lot easier. So these are the puberty dates. Again, I can go back to this at the very end if you need to take a picture.
What is one thing you learned about in health this year?
A healthy habit is something you do every.
So we're going to show you this quick little video. This was from a few years ago when we did it, but I just love the video so much that I want to show it because it talks about all the student experiences. So you're going to see kind of a K-5 lens of what's been taught, but this is one of my all-time favorite videos because some of the answers are just phenomenal from the students.
What is one thing you learned about in health this year?
A healthy habit is something you do every day and every night, and that was sleeping. And sleeping helps you get energy for the morning, and it can help you do math and social studies.
A healthy habit is playing basketball every single day because it helps you exercise and be stronger.
This year with Mr. Tisha, I learned to go to trusted adults, and that is when you're feeling uncomfortable, you can go to a trusted adult to help you. This year in health, we learned about conflict and ways to solve it.
One thing I learned about in health class this year is to make healthy decisions. One thing I learned about in health class is the triangle of health.
And what are the different sides of the triangle?
One is physical health, social health, and mental and emotional health.
And tell me a little bit about each side of the chart.
Physical health is how you take care of your body. Social health is how you stay in a relationship, and mental and emotional health is how you think and feel.
An influence is something that affects your decision making, and having positive influences around you can help your decision making and affecting it in a good way, and having, whether your rest of your life or the rest of the week or something, being better. And if you have negative influences, sometimes and almost always, it will probably affect your life in a bad way. And
this year in health, I learned that assertive communication is really important in life, and how to be assertive instead of passive, where you let the other person take control and it's a lose-win, or aggressive, where you let yourself take control and it's a lose-lose for both of you. But when you're assertive, you're nice to the person, but you're still holding your ground and not letting them take down what you're the one saying, and that results in a win-win. And that's a skill that everyone has throughout their whole lives.
One thing I learned in 5th grade health this year is to be socially, emotionally, and physically healthy. They all are sort of related, because you're not really happy if you don't have all three.
So that's just a little breakdown of some of the perspectives of our students that we've taught K through 5. So you can kind of see, it's always funny watching them do the recordings of that, because some of them are so nervous to talk, but it's just something that's really clicked well for our students, and we feel that the approach that we've taken with the skills-based health program is something that is continuing to be effective here, and we're hoping to obviously continue that. So the last thing I'm going to have you do is if you have your phones, we're going to ask if you could please just scan, I'll get out of the way, scan that QR code. And there's going to be a few questions for you. It's kind of a feedback for us. We try to get an idea of maybe there are things that parents, would like to see maybe implemented at some point or another. Also kind of where you rank some things that we're teaching in terms of importance and whatnot. And it really does give us valuable feedback that we can continue to use. So if you could just do that, Jill, do you have?
I just want to, Michael, before they begin the puberty lessons, there is a guide that goes home to parents so that you know what the boys are learning and what the girls are learning. And so it's also important for you to know what they're not learning. So that, as a parent, allows you to have those conversations. So we do have some of those guides up on the stage, so feel free to look at those. But also they all go home so that you have an understanding as well.
Yeah, that's important. Thank you for adding that. And as Jill said, there is some information up here that we would love for all of you to come up. If we're going to ask that they just stay here, just because we only printed out one. So people taking things, we didn't have as many because they're all kind of distributed at this point. But there's quite a few things up here to take a look at, K through 5. And then obviously myself, Mr. Orlando, Mr. Hauta, and Dr. Carenti will be up here if you have any questions. I know in the past I've had parents ask Mr. Orlando how's the puberty class, things of that nature. So we're happy to answer those questions for you.